Yo, what's good, gang? It's your boy Weasel, back with another reaction for y'all. Um, Asked y'all to take a vote. It was either this or Mike Epps. Y'all chose this video. We got Krayzie Bone from Bone Thugs and Harmony, who is exposing the music industry for basically a meeting that changed hip hop forever. I've heard about this meeting before, but I've never heard it come from somebody else's mouth like his, a guy that's been around at that time. So we're gonna go ahead and tap in with this video. If it's your first time at the channel, go ahead and click that subscribe and that like. Appreciate it. On the road to 5K. Let's get it.
Of the letter is the secret meeting that changed rap music and destroyed a generation.
Damn.
So it says, hello. After more than 20 years, I finally decided to.
Okay, so he's reading something off of an article, it looks like. So basically he's reading something, but I'm pretty sure we're gonna get his point of view, but we're gonna go ahead and let him
tell
talk.
the world what I witnessed in 19.
That's Lazy Bone, by the way, from Bone
I believe
Thugs.
was one of the biggest turning points in popular music and ultimately American society. I have struggled for a long time weighing the pros and cons of making my story public, as I was reluctant to implicate the individuals who were present that day. So I've simply decided to leave out the names and all the details that may risk my personal well-being and that of those who were, like me, dragged into something they weren't ready for.
All right, so basically he's reading it from somebody that was at the meeting at the time. They're not giving specific names or nothing, just so they don't get anybody killed by the elites. But yeah, basically there's an agenda behind hip hop and rap music, which we all know.
So we gonna tell a story.
We gonna tell the story. We ain't scared.
You know what I'm saying? What they gonna do?
They after us, not just playing.
Look, that black van.
So look, so he says, between the late 80s and early 90s, I was what you may call a decision maker with one of the more established companies in the music industry. I came to Europe in the early 80s and quickly established myself in the business. The industry was different back then, since technology and media weren't accessible to people like that, like they are today. The industry had more control over the public and had the means to influence them any way it wanted.
Right.
This may explain why in early 1991, I was invited to attend a closed-door meeting with a small group of business insiders to discuss rap music's new direction. Rap music's new direction.
Yeah.
So you hear that, rap music's new direction. So if you don't know, in the early 70s and 80s, really the 80s when hip hop started forming, it was a lot of positive music and a lot of music that would uplift you, make you think. Your KRS-Ones and stuff like that, the ones that have tap into that third, you know what I mean? They didn't like that. You had more conscious brothers, more people waking up, more people becoming more of a community, and they didn't like that. So, you know the old saying, divide and conquer.
Little did I know we would be asked to participate in one of the most unethical and destructive business practices ever seen.
Crazy.
So this was
business practice.
The meeting was held at a private residence on the outskirts of Los Angeles. I remember about 25 to 30 people were being there.
Right.
So it was in LA, where Hollywood is Hollywood, and Hollywood controls everything in LA.
Most of them familiar faces. Speaking of those I knew, we joked about the theme of the meeting, as many of us did not care for rap and failed to see the purpose of being invited to a private meeting to discuss the future of hip-hop.
Talk to them.
Among the attendees was a small group of unfamiliar faces who stayed to themselves and made no attempt to socialize beyond their circle. Based on their behavior and formal appearances, they didn't seem to be from our industry. Our casual chatter was interrupted when we were asked to sign the confidentiality agreement, preventing us from publicly discussing the information presented during the meeting. Needless to say, This intrigued, in some cases, disturbed many of us. The agreement was only a page long, but very clear on matters and consequences, which stated that violating the terms would result in job termination immediately.
So basically, that NDA said you tell anything, you say anything, automatically fired. Anybody finds out, automatically fired. We don't care. You're automatically fired. And fired is just probably the bare minimum they're gonna do.
We asked several people what this meeting was about and the reason for such secrecy, but could not find anyone who had the answers for us. A few people refused to sign and walked out. Nobody stopped them. I was tempted to follow, but curiosity got the best of me.
That's right.
A man who was part of the unfamiliar group collected all the agreements from us. So
I called them your
the
suits.
process of the meeting about to start.
So somebody in a suit.
It says, quickly after the meeting began, hold on one second.
Get your popcorn, y'all.
So from what I'm hearing, it sounds like he's reading from the perspective of somebody that's in the industry as an artist, saying that they didn't dress like the hip hop artists. I would call those people suits. The higher ups, the suits.
Popcorn, get your pistol. No,
For real though.
Get your pistol.
quickly after this meeting began, one of the industry colleagues, who shall remain nameless like everybody else, thanked us for attending. He then gave the floor to a man who only introduced himself by first name and gave no other details about his personal background. I think he was the owner of the residence, but that was never confirmed. He briefly praised all of us for the success we had achieved in our industries and congratulated us for being selected as a part.
Yeah, he's speaking from an artist point of view.
Of decision makers. At this point, I began to feel slightly uncomfortable and the strangeness of this gathering. The subject quickly changed as the speaker went on to tell us that the respective companies we represented had invested in a very profitable industry, which could become even more rewarding with our active involvement.
Damn.
He explained that the companies we worked for had invested millions into the building of privately owned prisons, and that our positions of influence in the music industry would actually impact the profitability of these investments.
That's deep as fuck. Did you hear what they said? So if you didn't catch it, he basically said they're trying to use hip hop to get people into their new privately owned prisons. Hip hop leads to prison. Killing leads to jail, which leads to prison time. Who listens to hip hop? Young Black youth. Who does all the killing and all that stuff that they show you? Apparently only young Black youth, but we know it's all youth.
Then he says, I remember many of us in the group immediately looking at each other in awe and confusion. At the same time, I didn't know what a private prison was, but I wasn't the only one. Sure enough, someone
we know what they is now in
someone
2021 and
what these
2022. We know what they
prisons
is now.
and what any of this had to do with music.
No, all what private
We were
prisons are.
told that these prisons were built by privately owned companies who receive funding from the government based on the number of inmates.
Mm-hmm.
The more inmates, the more the government would pay these prisons.
Mm-hmm.
It was also made clear to us that since these prisons are privately owned, as they become publicly traded, we'd be able to buy shares. Most of us were taken back by this. Again, a couple
Stock
of people
market.
asked,
You
what
can
this had to do
invest
with
in
us.
the stock
At this
market and
point,
buy these
My
shares of
industry
these
colleague who had
prisons.
first opened the meeting took the floor
Crazy.
again and answered our
Fucking
questions.
crazy.
He told us that since our employees had become solid investors in this prison business, it was now in their interest to make sure that these prisons remain filled. Our job would be to help make this happen by making music which promote criminal behavior, rap being the music of choice.
Rap being the music of choice. Because if you want a certain audience in the prisons, you target a certain audience to do certain things. I think it's just brainwashing at that point. You change the music to brainwash them. All these fools nowadays popping pills, shooting, doing all this shit, hitting licks. It's all because of the music. If you got a rational mind, you know that's not right. But the music fucks you up that you think it's right. And they fuck you up with the videos and the money and the jewelry. They fucking y'all up. And it's worse now than it was in the 90s and the 2000s. I'll tell you that now.
He assured us that this would be a great situation for us because rap music was becoming an increasingly profitable market for our companies. And as employees, we'd also be able to buy stocks in these prisons. Immediately, silence came over the room. You could have heard a pin drop. I remember looking around to make sure I wasn't dreaming and saw half of the people with dropped jaws. My daze was interrupted when someone shouted, "Is this a fucking joke?" At this point, things became chaotic.
Right.
Two of the men who were part of the unfamiliar group grabbed the man who shouted and attempted to remove him from the house. A few of us, myself included, tried to intervene. One of them pulled out a gun, and we all backed off. They separated us from the crowd, and all four of us was escorted outside. My industry colleague, who opened up the meeting earlier, hurried out to meet us and reminded us that we had signed an agreement and would suffer the consequences of
I think this is
speaking out
NWA,
about this
personally.
publicly, or even those
I
who
think the
didn't.
group is
I
NWA.
asked him why was he
Personally
involved with
speaking.
something so corrupt, and he replied, "It's
Wasn't that
bigger
many
than the
groups of
music
4 or
business
5
and nothing we
back
can
in the
do."
day?
And, no, it's bigger than the music business and nothing we want to challenge without risking consequences. We all protested as we walked back into the house. I remember word for word the last thing he said. "It's out of my hands now. Just remember you signed an agreement." He then closed the door behind him. The men rushed us to our car and actually waited until we drove off the property.
Damn.
So this meeting, bro.
Now that's a lot for a meeting, right?
That is a lot for a meeting, bro. God damn. So basically, a whole bunch of hip hop heads got called to this private meeting. In this private meeting, this one guy, this higher up, tells them, this is what we need you to do. We need you to focus your music and target it on these things so we can fill our prisons. Well, how can you fill your prisons? Only if people commit crimes. You feel me? I wonder who it was that said this shit, because they didn't get no names, but it was a group.
Definitely. And this person later on, he said, this person actually ended up leaving the music industry after this happened. A few years after this, he ended up leaving the music industry.
Okay.
And he said he just over the years he just felt guilty because he said as he sat back and he watched these plans come to a reality.
Shit just deteriorate. He's seen it.
Like, wow,
wow,
they really pulled it off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They really pulled this off. He was
yep.
like, they were told
big ass fucking Matrix.
Political rappers, any more rappers that had messages in their music,
positivity.
It was all to be gangster rap music that they promoted and put out.
Killing, drug dealing, prostitution, shooting shit up, robbing shit, all that shit. And they still doing it now. So if this was in the 90s and it's 2020 plus 2021 going on to 2022, if it's 2021 going on to 2022, I accidentally paused it. That is 30 years. They've been pushing this agenda. 30 fucking years. And it's been 30 years of them making money off of Black, Latinos, and some other races, mainly Blacks and Latinos, going to prison, killing each other, all this shit, drug addiction, prostitution, all this shit, one big ass matrix, one big ass motherfucking fuck, man, this shit's crazy. And it's this the shit that make you know that shit is deeper than what we even fucking know or think, and what we can even fathom.
One went, and all sorts of groups like that was talking.
Yeah.
Even Queen Latifah and Moni Love and those,
Everybody.
It's a back door.
Yeah, anything that was harmless, fun rap, anything that had a message in it had to go.
Yeah, that's why if you even notice though,
we talk about that all the time.
Even be brief with it, those charms that came out like maybe in 1988, 89, the African charms, those they lasted for about 2 years and they disappeared real quick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. Now, after reading all this, it actually made me feel a few different ways. The first one was shock, because I was definitely taken back with just knowing the level of evil that's involved by even thinking of a plan like this. You know what I'm saying? The second emotion I felt was anger. Anger because it's not enough for them to exploit our culture and make all the money off of it. Mm-hmm. Because let's keep it real, the industry has never been favorable towards the artist. Never. But they're going to go beyond the artist to get the artist to influence and lure in the consumer, which they knew at the time were mainly minorities.
Yep.
In other words, keep promoting gangster rap so that the youngsters will be influenced by them, which in turn will incite them to want to act like them, and it's a very good chance they'll end up in their prison.
Yeah.
So they're getting paid twice. They're getting paid from the artists they signing, and then they're getting paid
the
from
private fucking prison when the people go to jail.
The people that these artists influence that goes to prison trying to be like.
There you fucking go. And why? And to me, why do you think you got so many rappers that rap about the same goddamn shit? Nowadays, they all rap about the same shit. Everybody sounds the same. You can't tell who is from who unless you see them, or unless you really fuck with them and you know their voice like that. They all sound the same. But he's right. They're just pushing an agenda. And some of them artists get a cut out of that shit. That's a fucking damn shame. That's a damn shame. And we so fucked we can't see it.
Like these artists.
Yeah.
So they making a killing.
A killing.
They're using the music business to promote their private prison business.
My man is right there talking that right. 1988, a man named Tom Beasley, man. That's the co-founder of the corrections for Corporation of America. That's the CCA. You know what I'm saying? Excuse my French. I'm reading this thing right there real quick. That's the CCA. So in 1988, he founded that, and this is in straight concert with the same thing. So it's like the music business. You do what you do on your side, and over here with the correction facilities, we're gonna do on this side because. And now in 1970, there was 500 prisons. You know what I'm saying? Only 500 prisons in the United States. To this day, there's 1,700 prisons right now. That means big business. I'm talking about that done flippled over. You know what I'm saying? If flippled over is a word.
500 to 1,700. If I heard that correct, let me see. Let me back that up. Make sure he said that correct.
500 prisons in the United States. To this day, there's 1,700 prisons.
What year?
Right now.
I want to hear the year.
Over here with the correction
My
facilities,
bad.
we're gonna do on this side because. And now in 1970, there was
1970, it was 500.
You know what I'm saying? Only 500 prisons in the United States. To this day, there's 1,700 prisons right now.
1,700. They tripled the prisons.
Over. You know what I'm saying? If flipple over is a word, because they're making a lot of money off of these things per inmate. You know what I'm saying? So getting with the same thing of the music, it all went hand in hand, and we just partying at the same time.
So, us as the artists is the tool they use.
Yeah.
The music is the bait, and the young consumers are the prey. It's a cold game.
Cold fucking game.
Then
it's a cold game, and it's a cold fucking world, and they don't give a fuck who they fuck with or who they fuck over. It's that simple. But yeah, that's Krayzie Bone from Bone Thugs and Harmony. I believe that was NWA, the group, and I do believe certain people did partake in this and they knew about it, and they're still in the industry now. We all know the prisons are made for us. We all know the agenda now with this hip-hop shit. Just stop falling for the fucking trap. Stop being a fucking mouse. Stop always chasing the cheese. That's it for this one. So go ahead and drop a like, share this, comment, tell me what y'all think. This your boy Weasel, and I'm out this thing. Yee.